Alright, hey guys, it's Kevin again, and I am finally going to be reviewing to you something that I've been wanting to review to you all week long. All week long I've been hyping this up, all week long. I haven't even watched this show. I saw one episode of this show, and from there I'm like, I can't wait to review the show to you guys. And that show is the season premiere, the final season of Sons of Anarchy, Season 7, Episode 1, Black Widow. Black Widower. And let me talk about Sons of Anarchy for a second. I ended up binging this show. I was going to binge this show. I ended up not binging this show because of Borak Empire. It kind of conflicted with it, and I didn't get a chance to actually binge the show, so I didn't. I didn't binge the show. I ended up watching, I did, however, watch the finale. Absolutely love the finale. I thought the finale was amazingly done. I don't know what everyone's problem was. I know it was a little bit slow moving, but I like it that it was slow moving. I like that because we weren't expecting it to be as big and as graphic as it was. Definitely. I thought that was definitely very good about the show. And something I really enjoy about the show is the way they kind of shock you, the shock factor. I'm just going to warn you guys, though, this is probably going to be a very long review because this episode was almost 2 hours long. 2 hours long. A movie length. Now, I like that Sons of Anarchy likes to make their episodes long because it's good when it's long. It's really good when it's long, actually. I was really into this episode the entire time. I thought this was an amazing season premiere, Amazing season premiere. There was nothing in this premiere that I didn't like, and really, I just loved everything about it. So, let's just get to it. And I really like the way they started it, because of course, the finale ended with Jack seeing Tara dead, and Patterson walked in, and Patterson pretty much thought that he killed Tara. So Jax is now in prison, and we see him beating up this guy in the bathroom. You can see the rage on Jax's face. By the way, it is now 2 months later, and Gemma, meanwhile, is comforting his grandson and also the sons. She is with the sons, because I was wondering, where did the sons go, because Tara was originally supposed to pick up the sons and keep them safe, basically. So instead what happened was Gemma picked them up. So, Gemma's is with them now. So then a bell takes off and the group rides, and Unsur puts flowers on Tara's grave and gets a call. That was definitely very sad to see that. I really like the way they started, though. Very good montage. And then Jax cuts a guy's throat in the bathroom, and I was just like, shit, he is going far. Wendy packs a bag, the Mayans hang out at their club, and one hands Nero a beer, and Lila welcomes people to Redwoody, which is basically a strip club. We'll talk about it in a second. But Jax carves a swastika into this guy, and not only does he do that, he pulls out his teeth, and I was just like, shit, he is going far. I don't blame Jax, though. I understand why he's going far. His wife was killed. I mean, someone killed his wife, and him to just think that his wife was killed. I understand why Jax is going far. It's understandable. There's no, question in my mind, oh, why is Jax going far? Because his fucking wife was killed. It makes sense why he's going far, definitely. That definitely makes sense why he's going far. There's no, question as to, oh, I don't know why he's going far. It makes perfect sense why he's going far. Definitely. Because someone killed his wife, and he doesn't want to be here. He knows that he is being held accountable for something. He's been framed, and he's really upset. So, for the first, I'd say 15 minutes of the episode, that's what we're dealing with here, is Jax in prison. We then see Unsur, and Unsur asks Wendy if she's really ready to do rehab, because, of course, she went to rehab, and I'm like, it's been 2 months. She hasn't gone to rehab. Seriously, she was supposed to go to rehab, and she says 9 days is enough, because she did rehab, and now she's leaving, and she's only been there for 9 days, apparently. And she says she's very worried, and the reason she's leaving is because she's very worried about Abel, no, not Abel, his name is Abel, and says Gemma can't take care of the boys alone. She can't take care of all the sons by herself. Speaking of Gemma, she is then at the jail, visiting Jax, and Patterson runs into her. And Patterson tells the guard to make sure Gemma goes after her. And she comes to sit by Gemma and tells her she's sorry for her loss, and Gemma says she is too. And here's the thing with Gemma. You can see that Gemma is extremely regretful for killing Tara. You can see that. Because the second that she found out that Tara wasn't doing what she thought she was going to do, that Jax was actually turning himself in, you could see that Gemma was just like, oh shit, what have I done? And I understand why Gemma did what she did. She was doing what she thought was the right thing to do, and it completely backfired on her. Completely backfired. So Rat Boy asks Gemma if it's okay, and she says it is. And Patterson asks if he's protection, and Gemma says company since she's lonely. She asks Patterson if she's had any luck with Tara's case, but Patterson says no one wants to cooperate and says Jax will only talk to Gemma. He's not talking to anybody. He's so pissed he's not talking to anyone. And she says he found his wife dead, the woman he loved more than anything, and asks what she would want him to say. So, you know, that definitely, obviously that makes sense. It obviously makes sense why he's doing that. So then we find out why he pulled the teeth. Jax pulled teeth because, Tully wanted him to, you know, one of the prison people, one of the people he's in prison with. He says he thought they were into that, and Jax says he was told he needed to make the message clear, and says the snitch won't be talking anytime soon. The others leave, and Jax sits with Tully, and he tells him he wants to clear the air between the AB and the SOS, and Sons of Anarchy, because, you know, there's that recurring feud going on there, and he wants to sort of get rid of that. He doesn't want this feud anymore to happen. He wants that to just end, because it's causing him too much stress, and he can't afford losing the Sons, because the Sons is really all he has now. You know, he's lost his wife, he's lost his best friend, all he has left are really the Sons. They're his brothers, basically. They're like his brothers to him. So Tully says Darby was a poser, and the Nords were a joke, and Jack says Nobel was a cancer that almost killed them both. So Tully asks about the slaughter at the ranch, and Jack says he thought that was an internet beef, and he says Lynn and Alvarez are teaming up, and this is going to change things inside. Jack says he can hate who he wants, but he can tell his friends that when they get Juice stalking, they could reach out to the darkest hand in the yard, and Tully says he may need some things in the future, then they'll be good, and Jax is told to come talk to the DA. Now, this was moving very quickly, and I'm like, already? It definitely made sense later why they decided to do that, but I will say this. If they would have had the whole episode with Jax in prison, I probably would have been bored. I would be. I like Jax in prison, but you could not have a whole episode with Jax in prison, especially a 105-minute episode. I mean, come on. Come on, you can't have a 105-minute episode with Jax in prison. You just can't do that. It's not going to work, and I understand why they didn't end it like that, because you can't just have Jax in prison the whole episode. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. It's that simple. It doesn't work. So yeah, so he's called to talk to the DA, and Unser then delivers Wendy to the house, and she says her house is a wreck, and he's very unsure about doing this, because, you know, she was in rehab for 9 days. And she tells him that she needs to clean it, and she thanks him for the lift and goes in. He offers some advice and tells her to talk to Jax before going to see the boys to show respect. She agrees, and she knows he's in jail, so, you know, she should be fine with that. And he tells her the guys are at the ice cream shop and can give her the info. And he tells her to let him know if she needs anything. She heads in, and her space is nice and clean. Luckily, I was happy about that. Her cabinets are fully stocked, and then Juice walks in and startles her. Now, here's the thing about Juice. Juice, I don't trust either. Even though, because he's really the only person that knows Gemma killed Tara. So the thing is, Juice, honestly, is a very suspicious character right now. I don't know what he's going to do, because he did help Gemma dispose of the evidence. So I pretty much think he's on Gemma's side, which means I don't trust him. Definitely, I don't trust him after what he did. So then we see Patterson talk to Jax, and I really like this conversation. I thought this was very well done. Patterson tells Jax they actually have all the lab work on Tara's murder, and there's nothing that says that he did it. There's nothing that proves that he is not innocent. So basically, she's setting him free. And she says that, she understands, and he's like, well, then why am I here, basically? Why do you want me here? And she says the desire for revenge is natural and is part of grieving. She says she knew her desires wouldn't come real, but in his world, they can. She says they didn't tie him to either murder, and there's no parole violation to speak of. She says they're letting him go and tells him that Gemma is there and can take him home. And she says she's been doing it for 20 years, and until today, she has never spoken about her personal life. And I thought that was very cool, actually, and this was a very good scene here. He asks her one question, and that is, why me? He says, why'd you pick me? Why am I here? And she says she needed help to connect with the man who did the right thing 10 days ago and knows the importance of family and that more violence will destroy what's left of his. So, did I say 2 months? I meant 10 days. It's like 10 days later. So, yeah, basically, I thought that was a great scene because Jax really did do the right thing. He was going to turn himself in anyway, so she understands why, and there's no evidence that he killed Tara, so he's free to go. And remember, she did not only see Tara dead, she also saw that FBI agent dead, so that makes sense. So then she leaves Wendy, who waits on Juice to get dressed, and asks why Gemma let him stay there. And he says she was supposed to be gone a few months ago, and she tells him he has to go, but says he can't because he's hiding from the club. And he basically says, it's complicated and everything, and he tells her that they'll kill him, and he sits down and says he's sorry and will find another place if she'll let him wait until dark. So she agrees, and she says she has to go talk to Jax and asks about her car, and he says it's still there. He begs her not to say anything to Jax. He's just like, don't say a word about this to Jax. And she tells him she won't say anything. So she leaves, and then we see Jax driving with Gemma in the car. And this was a very well done scene, because the whole time you can see, again, you can see the regret on Gemma's face. You can see the sadness on her face. You can just see, what she's going through, definitely. She says she grilled all of them and everyone in the hospital. Jack says there are no suspects. The thing is, you're sitting with the suspect right now. And he says August got him a burner, and the club is up to speed. So, basically, they're ready to go. Sons are back and ready to go. So he asks about Juice, and she says no. She says they found his sister back east, but she hasn't seen him in years, and they're watching his apartment. She asks what's up with that, and he says club shit. He asks about the funeral, and she says it was 2 days ago, just club and family, and she says it was quiet and respectful. And none of this is true. None of this is true at all, because we saw Unser bury Tara. There was no funeral for her. They completely forgot about it. It's like they don't even care that she was dead. So, there was no funeral for her. There wasn't. There was no funeral for Tara. And the whole thing with Juice is not true either. So, really, Gemma is a genius here. She is covering herself up in such a big way. And Gemma, Jax doesn't even suspect her right now. He doesn't even suspect her. So she says Abel doesn't know what happened, just that his mother's in heaven, and Gemma tells Jax it's good, he's out, and says the boys need him. Because, Abel was his son, Abel was his son, and he's concerned about him, obviously. And she asks where he's going, and he says he's going to Scoops. He says he can't see the boys yet. He has to get clear on what he needs to do first, because he can't see them yet. She says she gets it. He holds her hand and tells her that her help means a lot to him. He says he loves her, and no matter what he needs, she says she's there for him no matter what he needs to do. So I think this was really trying to show that Gemma's trying to make up, basically, for what she did. It's kind of too late, though. I mean, eventually she's going to have to tell him, because either she's going to tell him or he's going to find out. And if he finds out, here's the thing. If Jax finds out, he is going to be majorly pissed. He is going to be pissed out of his mind. He's probably going to kill Gemma because of what he did on the prison guard, and what he does at the end of this episode definitely confirms that he's probably going to kill Gemma. And he's just going to go crazy if that happens. So, definitely, I understand that Gemma's trying to keep this secret hidden, but it's going to come out either way, because Juice knows as well. We don't really know whose side Juice is really on. At this point, at least we don't. So, there's a lot that could happen here. So, Flint wheels out to see the two clubs together, and of course, this was one of Jack's concerns, where the two clubs. He wants them to get along. They're not getting along at all. And basically, Tig says he just thought he was really short. They mock Flint and ask why the Oreo bikers are there. And he says someone ran one of their groups off the road and heard it was East Dub. And says he needs to know who it was. And Chib says Jax is out. And Tig tells him to point out who did it. And Flint hassles him about it. So Chib says they need to move it along since they know they're lying. And he puts a gun right on Flint. Literally right on Flint. And he says, just put your guns down. One hesitates. Chib shoots the guy in the leg. And he tells Flint to tell him who was driving the Impala. And Flint says he can't understand and asks what clan McDouchebag is talking. I thought this was kind of a funny scene. It was funny. I thought it was definitely funny. They put out some chains on his wheelchair, attach it to Bobby's bike, and he's dragged begging for mercy. I mean, you gotta feel bad for him, but I don't know. Something about that scene was just funny. I don't know. Something about it was funny. So Jax tells Gemma to head straight for TM and take a guy with her, and she agrees, and he heads into Scoops, where Chuck welcomes him. And she sees Wendy and pulls to a stop and asks if she's shitting her. And she says she's looking for Jack's info. And Gemma says she's out, but tells her it's a bad idea to talk to him today. The others pull up on their bikes, and Wendy asks where the sons are. And she says with her. And Wendy says she can talk to Jax when he comes by. And Wendy says she'll be staying with her since she gave her place to Juice. And Wendy says her helping Juice is out of character. But Gemma says there's been enough death, the crew agree, there's been enough death. I agree with Gemma. There has been enough death. You killed, half of the main characters on the show are dead. There's a plan on killing off like 2 sons this season. Gemma and Gemma and Jax are probably both gonna die. So there's been enough death for right now. So Chris notices Wendy and asks Jax if he wants to take care of it. And it's just such a great scene because, again, the sons are really all Jax has left. So when he reunites with them, it's just so, so sweet to see. I thought it really just feels like a family reunion. It really does. I mean, he hasn't seen them in 10 days. He's been in jail for 10 days. Yes, he's been in jail for 10 days. But even though he has been in jail for 10 days, I just thought that was just a very well done scene in my opinion. Like it was just like it's like he's come home, he's there for them, and just such a great scene. Definitely, again, it really felt like a family reunion because they're really just one big family. They really are. They're one big family, and I thought that scene was just very well done. So basically, what ends up happening after that is Chris notices Wendy and asks Jax if he wants him to take care of it. And Jax tells them to go upstairs, and Wendy walks him, and he asks why she's there. And she says she's there to talk, and she left rehab. That's why she left rehab, because she wants to talk to him. So Gemma tells him that she got her out so she could help with the sons, and asks him to talk to her. So she leaves him alone, and Wendy tells him that she's very sorry about Tara. And he says it's not your problem, and she says she's just there to help, and she doesn't care if Abel ever knows she's his mom, and she asks him to let her help, and he tells her to work it out with Gemma, and she agrees. And honestly, I agree with Wendy. Abel is a small infant; he's only a baby, and if he finds out that Tara is his mother. Fine. If he finds out, I'm fine with that. I agree with Jax. That's the best thing to do. Definitely, that's the best thing to do at this point. So then we see that so then Osa tells Alvarez and Nero that he has connections with the ILW. And they talk about Borowski being dirty, greedy cops, and Fiasco tells them that Jax is loose, and Nero says to call Lynn and let him know while he finds Jax, and Nero says he may be able to make a deal that keeps them whole. Now, Alvarez says Oso is worried about his loyalty with Gemma, and Nero says Gemma knows how the world works, and he then takes off. So Jax sits at a table, and the guys all stream in, and I thought this was just such a well-done scene. It is the first time they've had a meeting in a while, and he gives them this very inspirational speech. We'll talk about it in a second, but basically he says he didn't think he'd be sitting in the chair again, and thanks them for helping Gemma and taking care of his problems. He asks if their alliances are locked down, and they tell him their Italians are in their debt, and Happy shows him a new tattoo and says no, and he asks about the Grim Bastards, and Shiv says one of Flint's ran down some prospects. So they tell him there's an OG named Delane involved, and Jack says he got to sit down with Tully while he was in. He said he didn't give him much, but he thinks he cleaned it up, and he says for now they're okay with what they have. So Bobby says the garage is sold, and they're taking bids to fix the clubhouse. And basically Hatai says, that Zola is picking up, and then we see, after this, we see Quinn says the porn studio is almost ready, and Lila is tracking down the Karaka girls, and he says the new name of, the porn studio is Redwoody, and it's open for business. Now, Jack says he never really wanted the chair, but knew it would happen, and he says he dreaded the responsibility. He says he can barely make the right choices for himself. He's been trying to take them in a direction he thought would make sense away from the outlaw ship, but it hasn't worked. They're still wanted. They're still wanted by the FBI, so they're never really going to get out of that. That's the thing. Jax needs to realize that when you are wanted by the FBI, that's not something you can get out of. When you're an outlaw for life, basically. That's not really something you can get out of. So he gives this very good speech, and I really like the monologue he gave right here. I thought this was definitely just a very good scene. He says he thinks he was trying to buy back all the bad shit he's done, people he's hurt. He says a false pardon, dangerous and selfish. He says JT did the same thing, and those choices took his dad's family and Patch. He says he lost the woman he loved. He's not going to lose his club. He's just not going to. Because if he loses his club, then I'm pretty sure Jax is just going to be like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care what happens to me. Because if Jax were to lose the Sons, Jax would have nothing. all he has is Gemma and Wendy. That's really all he has in terms of, who's on his side at this point. That's really all he has, if you think about it. That's really all that Jax has, and that scene was definitely very well done. I really enjoyed that scene. I thought it was very well done, and especially what Jax says to them next. Definitely, I thought this was very good. What he says next to them. He basically says he wants to make, he wants to move forward. He needs to know the table has no doubt or mistrust, and that they would all kill or die for, for the man next to them. Basically, they would die for each other. They would kill for each other. They would risk their lives for each other. He says, now is the time to speak up. They all look at him, and Chip says they're all in. They say they love him and trust him, and says to tell them what he needs. And I thought that was a great scene, definitely. Definitely a very good scene. And the thing I definitely really liked about that scene was just, again, you really saw that they are really his brothers. They're like a band of brothers, basically. So that was definitely a very good scene. So then we see that Juice hears a noise, and he grabs his gun, and it's Gemma. And this is a very interesting scene because, of course, Juice, again, is the only person that knows that Gemma killed Tara. So she asks why he told Wendy the club was after him, and she tells him he can stay tonight, but says he has to go soon since Jax is out. And he says he'll figure out that he needs the cash from the weed shop. He needs it. And Gemma says they're watching it, but she'll get him some money. And she tells him to go when there's no charter, and that she'll send him the rest of his money once things calm down. And she asks if he needs anything, and he says no, and he asks about Jax. And Gemma says he's sad, and he asks what she said to him. And she asks how he had a talk with him about Tara. And she says she's not a psychopath. And she says she knows what she did was horrible, and that they were protecting the club. And she made choices based on the truth she had, and so did he. So she says he did what anyone would have done. And basically, I agree with what she said. If Jax finds out, not only will he have lost his wife, but his mother too. He's probably going to kill his mother. I could definitely see Jax doing that just because of the way Jax would react, definitely. Especially because Jax is so focused on revenge and redemption this season. That's what he's so focused on at this point. He wants to find Tara's killer. That's what he needs to do. He needs to find Tara's killer. And it's great that we know who Tara's killer is, because if it would be some unknown person and we didn't know who it was, I think that'd be really boring. It's good that we actually know who Tara's killer is. We know. I'm glad that we know it's Gemma that is Tara's killer. I think that's definitely good. So I agree with what she said there. So she said it's best she doesn't know why Jax wants him dead, but says he helped her and gave her a truth that works, so she's going to help him. She tells him to hold it together a few more days, not to chat up with the junkie. She kisses him, and they go. So they've agreed to this plan. They've agreed that they're not going to tell Jax. Jax is not gonna find out about this, and basically, they're protecting Jax and the son. That's what they care about. They need to protect the club. They just need to, because that's all that Jax really has left. Really, that's all he has left. And I like Gemma that she is a concerned mother. She cares about Jax. It's not like, oh, I don't give a shit about my son. I like that that's not what it is. I like that she actually does care about him. So then we see, we see Nero has some coffee, and Chuck whistles along to the radio. He tells him that Gemma misses him, and he asks if she told him that, and he says she never said a word, but he does say she always looks up with hope when a car pulls up into the TM. And Jax comes down, and he and Nero hug it out, and he says he's glad he's out and asks to talk. And Nero and Gemma, they unfortunately broke up last season. They broke up at the end of the finale, so I like that they did continue that. That was good, definitely, because, he's not over her either. So Nero gives his deepest condolences about Tara and says to let him know if there's anything he can do, and he asks if he knows who was involved, and Jax says nothing from the cops. He knows nothing at this point. Nothing. Which is the truth. He knows nothing. So Nero says he's been sitting with the Chinese in the mines, and he's trying to avoid his hood turning into a combat zone. And he says Lynn and Alvarez want to meet to extend their condolences and let him know Brown and Yellow had nothing to do with this tragedy. It has nothing to do with that. So Jack says until they're certain he's going to handle Dioza, and tells Hai to handle Colette's place to avoid conflict. Now, Nero agrees to this, but pushes for the meet soon. And she says she knows, and basically, so yeah, that's what ends up happening there. And Nero says he says he'll set it up. So that's basically what their plan is. So Unser then sees Patterson, and I like this scene. It seems like they're going to team up. And she introduces herself and asks if he remembers her, and he cites a specific case that they worked together on. And he tells her no one is there, but she says she's there to see him. She says she knows he was close to Tara, and he says he already made a statement. She says she knows he managed the MC and kept things under control, and he says that's history. She tells him that Althea Jari is taking over the sheriff's department now that Eli is gone, and she was in organized crime in Stockton. Now, Unser says his badge and gun days were long flushed away. He's not doing that anymore. And she tells him Tara deserved better. And she says she'll tell Jerry they talked when she briefs him. And she leaves. And Jax then meets with Lynn and Alvarez. And Lynn says it's awful to lose family. And Nero says to figure out how to move forward. And Nero says they're losing business with a turf war and they need to be smarter. So Jax says he knows handling the gun trade to Mark's to upset the balance is not going to be the right thing to do, obviously, so they're not going to do that. So that's not what they're planning to do. So what they do decide to do, though, what ends up happening? What did they decide to do? I just forgot what they decided to do. Okay. Basically, Lynn says the last time he met his guys were Irish in a warehouse. Most of them didn't come out alive. And Jack says that Bohol came at them, and he didn't know the retaliation was going down. Now, Jack says, he was so focused on moving away from the IRA, he didn't consider blowback, and he says he has a relationship with Borowski and can't with Barowski, not Borowski, Karofsky, what is this, Glee? Barowski, and can help with that and can look the other way at the very least. He says they're tight with Connor Malone, who's on the ground for the Irish, and can get them the Irish guns they want. And Lynn nods and says to start, and Jack says Sam Crow is throwing him a welcome back party, and he invites him to come and meet Malone. So Chibs tells Jax they went well, and he tells Chibs to make sure porn stars and the porn stars and Gemma are at the warehouse and Connor, because that's their plan. They're going to go to that house. That's what they're planning on doing. So they meet Tio. He's watching the car, and Jack sees a Rover and says it's high end for this address. They grab guns, they head upstairs, and Happy sees that the room is empty. Completely empty. They shoot the lock, they head in, and they see this random couple just, having sex. The girl takes a shot at them, they shoot them, and they recognize the pastor. The pastor is Reverend Jonathan Hotham from Piedmont Grace Church and his assistant pastor. So they agree they need to clean this mess up, and Jax finishes off the one guy that's still breathing, and the OC that killed the guys isn't there, and they just killed a couple of pastors. So Quinn tells Bobby the Rover belongs to the church, and they discuss where to bury the guys, and Jax directs his men. Tio apologizes, says he's not sure how much longer he can hold his charter, and Jax says he won't let him fold. He says he may need a favor tonight, and Tio agrees to that. So they then head out to the porn bar, whatever you call it. Lila greets Nero, walks off. He asks to chat with Gemma, and he says they really cleaned up the old shithole, and she asks if he saw Jax. He says they did, and she's pleased. He asks if she knows why he had to ask for distance, and she says she does. He's just trying to help people he cares about not die, and she asks how it's going, and he says it might be okay. She leans close. He nuzzles her, tells her he loves her, and she says she loves him too. And she asks what happens now, and he says one day at a time. She says she hates that shit and kisses him, and Chuck comes in and smiles when he sees this. And I thought that was a cute scene. I thought that was a good scene overall. So Wendy comes home, and she's going to stay with Gemma. She tells him she bought him fresh fruit, water, and some other stuff. She's not living with Juice anymore. And she says it's Unser, so she can leave the car for him. And she sends him the back and says she's going to let him in. So, yep, she's gonna go with Gemma. So Unser then says she cleaned the place, and she says she got carried away. He looks in the fridge and sees everything, all lined up and wonders. He asks if she's bringing the groceries and asks him to grab her coat out of the closet. And he asks which one, and she tells him he sees the bag at the bottom that grabs his eyes but closes when she walks in. And he asks if she's set, and they leave, and he looks around before they leave with suspicion. So meanwhile, we then get to the party, and there are all these girls everywhere. It's a really, really nice time there, definitely. Really hot girls. Very loud music, and Chibs and Jax talk to Malone about meeting the guys, and he asks if he cleared it with Marks. Mark says he's in New York, and they'll fill him in then, and Malone agrees to talk to them. So Jax gives his mom a nod, and Lynn and Rio Tom are introduced to Malone, And Jax says no more blood, and they sit for drinks, and Jax calls Lila to get them drinks. So the plan seems to be going well so far. So Unser comes back after dark to Wendy's place, goes to the closet, grabs a bag, looks inside, and sees a son's jacket. He then hears a gun. Juice tells him to get up. He asks how he's doing, and that's huge. That was big when that happened. I was like, wow, okay, that definitely is really big. When that happened, I'm like, okay, maybe he's gonna think Wendy is with the sons, which she kind of is, but not really. So Gemma walks around and offers Dunn a refill. She says a place is calling with free pussy and porno, and asks why he's not filling in an Orphace. And she asks if he's doing that Shaylin monk thing, and he tells her she sounds like a mom, and she says she is, and points out Jax. Obviously, she is a mom. So he tells her it's nice to meet her, and she asks if he has a family, and he says no. He didn't expect to be alive this long, and she says, "Tell me about it." She pats him on the back, tells him to enjoy himself, and that was a good scene overall. It seemed like, Gemma might possibly get, like, a love interest. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a well-done scene overall. I enjoyed that. And basically after this happens, basically he tells, and basically Jax then sees Tio and says he needs the favor. He points out Dunn and says to talk him down, but keep him alive. He asks what happens if he's not alone. They tell him they'll black hands so they won't be on Lynn's radar, and Tio asks what it's about. So Gemma comes up, and Jax tells her to tell Tio. Now, this is fake. Everything she's telling, remember, is fake. She is trying to cover up the fact that she killed Tara. So this is basically what she says happened. She tells him the night that Tara was killed, she was coming to Jax's house to grab the boy's stuff and saw someone waiting in the drive in a Mercedes. And she says she saw a guy beside the house who grabbed some stuff, and she saw that it was it was that guy in the house. And she didn't know Tara was inside. She left when she went to the club, and she then went to the club. So Jax says that the Chinese killed Tara, and Tio agrees to help. They're going to basically do shit. We don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to do something to this Chinese guy, definitely. You can just tell from what he's saying. They're going to do something bad to this Chinese guy, and I thought that was going to be how the episode ended. It seemed like it was going to end that way, but that's actually not how it ended. It did come back, and I was just like, okay, this episode's about to get extremely intense. It was already intense, but, like, that was when it just got really intense, definitely. And definitely I thought that was just a very, very good, way to make it more intense. Definitely very good stuff there. So then, basically, what ends up happening is, at this point, also, the club wants Juice dead. He's hanging on by a thin rope to ensure his survival, and, that's really big, Juice is the most dangerous character on the show at this point. He is. He's the most dangerous character on the show, and, that definitely was very big when that happened. Definitely, that was very big. And meanwhile, Jax and all of them, they are interrogating this Chinese guy, who they think is basically the one that killed Tara, so Jax is ready to just go all out on this guy. When I say all out, I mean all out. All out as in, we're gonna rip him to shreds. We're gonna do whatever we can to him. Think of Casino, what they did to that guy's head. Yeah, that's basically what Jax is planning on doing to this guy. That's pretty much what he's planning on doing. So, yeah. So that's basically what he's planning on doing. And, so basically they are, Jax gets out all this stuff. We see this knife, and it looks like he's going to stab him for a second. But then Jax pulls out some other stuff. He pulls out, like, a jackhammer, and there's more that, there's more stuff that he pulls out. He pulls out, like, a sledgehammer, he pulls out, what do you call them? Pliers. He pulls out pliers to, like what he did to that guy's teeth. Like, Jax is not playing around here. He's gonna do something bad to this guy. I thought we were gonna see it. I didn't want to see it, so I'm like, I don't want to see this right now. There are just certain things I can't watch. There are a lot of things I can watch, but I cannot watch torture scenes. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I hate torture scenes. I hate torture scenes. They're hard to watch. I'm not a fan of torture scenes. I'm not. So then we also see Gemma crying. We see Gemma back home. She's crying. And I'm wondering if this is trying to show that Gemma's going to tell the truth. I think that's what this is trying to show. She knows that they're basically killing an innocent man, and I think pretty much what's happening there is that, she's probably going to tell the truth. I think that's what they're trying to show there. So, what else ended up happening after this? So yeah, basically Jax, we see what happened to this guy. We come back, we see this guy is very badly, like, destroyed. He's basically he is, like, almost completely destroyed. And Jax takes, like, this thing, I don't know what to call it, but he puts it right in his head, and he kills the guy. He kills the guy right there, and yeah, so that's it. Jax basically just killed an innocent man. He doesn't even realize it. So it's basically Gemma's fault because she didn't tell the truth. It's not entirely her fault, but it pretty much is her fault, if you think about it. It pretty much is Gemma's fault. It is. That's all there is to it, is that it is Gemma's fault, if you think about it. It really is. So let's talk about this episode. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic premiere. I love this premiere. I thought it was just fantastic. I really, really did love it. I thought everything was just fantastic in this premiere. Definitely. The action was awesome. The suspense was awesome. There's so much tension on this show right now. Seriously, so much tension. Let's talk about Gemma. Gemma, I really feel that she is going to tell the truth. She just has this look on her face like she needs to tell the truth. She has this look on her face like, oh shit, I need to tell the truth, like, now. She has that look on her face. Juice, I think, is gonna die. By the end of the episode, when Juice, was being, like, held captive, I'm like, yeah, he's probably gonna die, unfortunately. He definitely, I think, is gonna die. Jax, I think, went too far, definitely. He went too far, definitely. I mean, I understand, obviously, he's pissed at this guy because he killed his wife, so I understand why he went so far, but that was definitely very, very intense. And the other thing is Juice going to be able to tell the truth about Gemma, is he going to be able to tell the truth? That's the question. Is he going to be able to do it? Because I'm wondering if, I'm wondering if he's going to be able to actually tell the truth. It's going to be interesting to see if he keeps the truth. But considering how hard the club is looking for him, he needs to do it soon because Juice is going to be framed. Juice is going to be framed for Tara's death, basically. That's what's going to happen here. He's hanging on by a thin rope, so that definitely is very big. And so yeah, that was definitely very intense. And then as far as what's going to happen, I definitely feel Gemma's eventually going to tell Jack. She just keeps crying and crying, and I just definitely feel at some point she's going to tell him. She has to tell him at some point. There has to be a time when she tells him. I don't know when, but she needs to tell him eventually, definitely. She definitely does need to tell him. Definitely that would end up happening there. Also, I've kind of found it interesting that he basically just killed that guy the same way that Gemma killed Tara without that fork thing. I'm like, why the fuck are people dying by forks? Seriously, why are all these people dying by forks? I don't understand that. That's something I don't understand. The other thing is Jax going to be able to, break up the make peace with the two feuds. There's the Sons of Anarchy, and then there's the other group, which I don't remember their name. But is he going to be able to keep the peace between them? Because he wants that to end. He says, I want this to end. I don't want this to go on anymore. He wants that to end. And I guess the only other thing to talk about, I don't know what else there is to talk about. I think that's pretty much all there is to talk about, but let me know what you guys think of this premiere. Overall, I think this is going to be an amazing season. I can just tell this is going to be a great season. A lot of people said that Sons of Anarchy needed to end, and here's the thing, I understand why people would say that Sons of Anarchy needed to end, but in my opinion, this was a perfect premiere. I really had no issues with it. I thought it was a perfect premiere. It really had no issues, definitely. It really didn't have any issues, in my opinion. It was absolutely fantastic. I love where it's going. Long, but it needed to be long. It needs to be long because of all the shit that went down in the last episode. It had to be long. Because of what happened in the finale, it had to be. There was no choice. It had to be long. It just had to be. But let me know what you guys saw of this premiere. I will see you guys in my next video. Again, guys, I'm really happy I started reviewing the show because I really regret not watching the show next year. And I'm going to... This is why I didn't watch the show next year. It's the stupidest reason. I didn't binge shows. I'm like, oh no, I'm not binging the whole series. Oh no, I'm not going to have time. I could have just binged the, last season like I do with every single show now. I find that's a lot more convenient, actually. Just watch the last season of the show. You should be fine. And, I should have just done that, but at least I watched the finale, so that's definitely a good thing. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Finding Carter, which, again, I watched Sons of Anarchy over Finding Carter because Sons of Anarchy was longer. So I will see you guys for my review of that, which will probably be up tomorrow. Later today, I mean, because it is tomorrow. You guys know what I mean. I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.